Meet the new USS John F. Kennedy aircraft carrier. The U.S. Navy has done well for itself politically. For a while, being a former Navy sailor almost seemed like a prerequisite for serving as president. Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard M. Nixon, Jimmy Carter, and George H.W. Bush all served in the U.S. Navy before eventually becoming president. And that's not all. Gerald R. Ford served in the Navy, which is why his name adorns the most cutting-edge and expensive boat in the sea, the Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carrier. Still, neither Johnson, Nixon, Carter, Bush, nor Ford is the U.S. Navy's most prominent sailor turned president. That distinction belongs to John F. Kennedy, who in death has become a beatified martyr and who in life had become a beatified war hero for his service upon PT 109. Long story short, when a Japanese destroyer sank PT 109, Kennedy helped save his crew. Kennedy sustained back injuries that would plague him for the rest of his life. Since Kennedy's assassination in 1963, the U.S. Navy has played an active role in commemorating its former lieutenant, naming 3 separate ships after Kennedy, the most remarkable of which is the soon-to-be commissioned CVN-79, the second Gerald R. Ford-class carrier, the USS John F. Kennedy. The Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carrier is the most expensive warship ever built. Each boat costs $13 billion, more than the entire GDP of many countries. Why such a massive investment? The aircraft carrier is a foundational element of U.S. foreign policy. As the backbone of a liberal hegemonic order, the U.S. is actively engaged in various locations around the globe simultaneously. Accordingly, U.S. foreign policy calls for the rapid projection of power. To project power, the U.S. relies on a vast network of several hundred overseas military bases. But military bases are fixed and inflexible. For mobile power projection, the U.S. relies most especially on the aircraft carrier, a floating city running on virtually unlimited nuclear power that services a floating airfield, capable of launching the carrier's 100 or so aircraft from roughly anywhere in the world. The Ford class, including the under-construction USS John F. Kennedy, will be the world's premier aircraft carrier. Frankly, the U.S. is uncontested with respect to aircraft carrier technology. The U.S. legacy fleets, like the Enterprise and the Nimitz-class, which the Ford is replacing, are more advanced than any carrier in any other country's arsenal. But the Ford class is forward-looking, designed to remain superior well into the future, even as China works to expand its naval capabilities and challenge U.S. hegemony. To stay ahead, the U.S. is willing to make a 12-figure investment in the Ford program. While each boat costs $13 billion, the program itself has already cost a staggering $120 billion. What does $120 billion get you exactly? Many U.S. taxpayers ask that question. In the case of the Ford class, $120 billion gets you a ship with the highest sortie generation rate, SGR, in the Navy. While most civilians have never heard of an SGR, it's a vital metric in gauging the effectiveness of an aircraft carrier to fulfill the essence of its existence: launch aircraft. As an aircraft carrier exists to project air power, the rate at which an aircraft carrier can launch aircraft is crucial in determining the worthiness of the aircraft carrier. The Ford is expected to be very effective at launching aircraft. In fact, the Ford and the USS John F. Kennedy are expected to have a 33% higher SGR than the Nimitz-class. The Ford is projected to reach 160 sorties per day, with the capacity to hit 270 in a wartime crunch. To achieve an SGR so much higher than the Nimitz, the Ford will rely on novel technologies: the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, or EMALS, and the Advanced Arresting Gear System, or AAG. The EMALS is especially impressive. The EMALS offers an improvement over the steam piston catapult featured on Nimitz and Enterprise carriers. The EMALS relies on a linear induction motor, which uses electric currents to create a magnetic field. The magnetic field is capable of moving an aircraft along a track down the carrier's deck before finally launching the aircraft with enough speed to maintain flight. The emails is expected to accelerate aircraft in a smoother manner than the steam piston catapults, which will be good for the aircraft in the long term, requiring less maintenance. Last fall, the People's Liberation Army Navy, PLAN, conducted dead-load launch tests of its Type 003 Fujian at the Jiangnan shipyard in Shanghai. As previously reported, this involved small test vehicles that were employed from one of the two forward catapult positions on the Fujian's flight deck, and the test vehicle didn't actually take to the skies. As it is a dead load, the test vehicle instead, it fell into the water basin forward of the ship. The United States Navy is now putting the future supercarrier USS John F. Kennedy through similar tests, but with apparently significantly larger test platforms. Last week, Huntington Ingalls Industries' Newport News Shipbuilding Division began the topside testing of the emails on the second Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carrier. The emails was developed to replace the existing steam catapults currently in use on the U.S. Navy's Nimitz-class aircraft carriers. According to HII, the no-load testing on catapults 1 and 2, known as the Bowcats, was successfully completed, and the NNS team, alongside the USS John F. Kennedy crew, began the dead load testing, which involves large, wheeled, car-like structures of graduated weights, up to 80,000 pounds to simulate the weight of actual aircraft. These were launched off the flat top's bow into the James River, where they were then retrieved and relaunched until the conclusion of the test program to ensure the catapults were ready for their primary intended purpose, namely to launch all carrier-based fixed-wing aircraft flown by the U.S. Navy, including the FA-18 Super Hornet and E-2 Hawkeye early warning plane. HII shared a video of the launches, and the deadload vehicles can be seen traveling more than 300 feet down the catapult track on the supercarrier's bow at speeds topping 150 miles per hour, which you can see above. These initial deadloads used in this month's testing had special significance, as family members of shipbuilders signed them with messages of congratulations and gratitude during the shipyard's Family Day that was held last October. The United States Navy struggled during the learning curve stage during the construction and testing of CVN-78. But based on the recent tests, it does appear that the issues with the emails have been largely resolved. However, it is unclear if the plan will face delays with the Type 003 Fujian, as it is the only other carrier to employ an electromagnetic launch system. The USS John F. Kennedy, featuring the email system and high SGR, is expected to be commissioned in 2025.